March of 2021, my wife and I got launched out into the city of Coconut Creek. And as many of you know, it's an adventure. You get out there, you start planning your life. You get in that U-Haul truck and you're driving. And I remember driving with my wife, and she is smiling from ear to ear. I feel like she wanted to preach more than I did. And I'm gripping the steering wheel with everything I have, and I'm thinking in my mind. And my wife can literally, she can be in my mind, and she's like, "You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I felt like I was going to war. Like I've been listening to conference sermons since I was 13, 14 years old. I've been in this conference. I've heard the testimonies. I'm like, that could never be me. What are they talking about? And I'm driving, and she says the words, "Jerry, this is going to be a quick work. God's going to do a miracle." So this morning, I want to help. My only goal is to help and go through the journey of what I went through for the first couple of years. And my goal is not to discourage. Okay. My goal is to reveal a weapon that I truly believe has been assaulting many pastors, even disciples that are going to answer the call. I've got a sermon titled, "Did God Really Say?" 2 weeks after moving into Coconut Creek, Florida, my 8-year-old daughter was in the shower in a townhome. On the second story, she screams my name, "Dad!" Well, that's not normal. Well, she screams all the time, but that was weird, right? That was different. So I run upstairs, and I see her crying, and she jumps out of the shower, and she looks at me. She said, "Dad, the shower head is talking to me." Okay, what is the shower head saying? The shower head is saying, I need to take my own life. I need to kill myself. What kind of shower head did I get? And so I kind of brush it off. I give her a hug. I pray over her. I said, this is what we've been preparing for. We must be in the right place. The devil's attacking. But the seed was planted. We chalked it up to the enemy being unhappy. But the seed was planted in my mind that day. 1 year later, we're having revival. Took us forever to find our first building after months of prayer and fasting. And it's like, all right, God, come on. You called me to this. Where's the response? He opens the door. We get a miracle building. We also find out in the same month that my wife is pregnant with our third child. She was pulling carpet. She was helping me remodel in the building. She felt nauseous, so she takes my daughter with her and she goes home. Within hours, my daughter called me crying on the phone. When I got home, my wife had miscarried our baby in front of our daughter. It rattled me, but we prayed. We left it with God, but we kept on going. Another seed planted. 1 year after that, I came home from conference full of faith. Our church is growing. Men are answering the call. "Pastor, I want to preach." They're buying homes. They're getting rid of their TVs. There's revival happening in our church. I get a text. A couple I love dearly with a list. Everything our church was doing wrong. Everything I've ever done wrong as a pastor. I literally married them a month before. They used me. Bunch of jerks. Just kidding. Just kidding. If you're listening, we still love you. Everything that was wrong, it was a gut punch. It hurt. It was a personal attack against me and my wife. But they left. And that same month, my wife gets pregnant again. I'm Puerto Rican. It happens, right? Let's just let it be. We're having revival with Pastor Shispansky at the Davy Church, and We're praying because we're a little nervous now. We miscarried the first one. We're holding on for hope, but there's still no heartbeat. We're waiting for that. And so my wife goes up for prayer, and Pastor Szymanski begins to pray over her. Pastor laid his hands on her, began to pray, and while he was praying, she began to miscarry our baby at the altar. She ran to the bathroom, came back, sat down, and pretended nothing was happening. What a burden to carry. Only 4 people on earth knew what was happening that day. Someone from my church walked up to me for some counsel. I didn't hear a word they said. I'm hurting. You want me to, I love you, but my life sucks. Does it? Tell me about it. Because in my head, the question that had been building for years finally landed.
Thank you for listening to the Taking the Land podcast. If you made it to this point, that means you're probably hungry for more sermons. Please check out the premium Taking the Land podcast, link in the show notes. For only $3 a month, you'll get interruption and ad-free listening experience, early releases to start your day right. Sermons will appear in your feed by 6 a.m. in the U.S. Full versions of Testimony Tuesday, access to the premium subscription WhatsApp group. Finally, the best reason to subscribe. All proceeds go to World Evangelism. We don't take a dime. Until next time, we wish you Godspeed as you pursue His will for your life wherever you are serving Him. Keep taking the land.
The lie was, the ministry is killing my family. Did God really call you to do this, Jerry? You can leave. You can go on a cruise. You've done your part. For the next year, I suffered with that lie in my mind in silence. Nobody knew. Not my church. Not my pastor. Not my wife, nobody. I had a book. I read it. I had a framework. I was going to make quitting sound responsible. I was going to leave with dignity and footnotes. But here's what I didn't realize until later. I was doing exactly what Eve did in the garden. I was having a conversation alone with the devil. So before I read a single verse this morning, there are men and women who are being tormented by the very thought right now. Did God really call you to do this? Did God really say? Maybe not those exact words, but something around that realm and that sentence. The one that makes staying in God's will seem foolish and leaving feel wise. I heard it. I began to live it. I almost believed it in my mind. I almost felt to this trap the weapon of, did God really say? Let's read this morning. Genesis 3. 1 through 13 out of the New Living Translation. The serpent was the stupidest or the shrewdest of all the wild animals the Lord had made. One day he asked the woman, did God really say you must not eat the fruit from any of the trees in the garden? Of course we may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, the woman replied. It's only the fruit from the tree in the middle of the garden that we're not allowed to eat. Well, God said you must not eat it or even touch it. If you do, you will die. You won't die, the serpent replied. God knows that your eyes will be open as soon as you eat it, and when you will be like God, knowing good and evil. The woman was convinced. She saw the tree was beautiful and the fruit looked delicious, and she wanted the wisdom it would give her. So she took some of the fruit and ate it. Then she gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he ate it too. Then the Lord called to the man, "Where are you?" The devil's oldest weapon, the one that he decided to attack humanity first with, wasn't loud. It was just a question. And it only wins if you determine that you're going to answer this question alone. What's happening in our scriptures, this is the first conversation between Satan and a human being in all of history. He could have used any weapon first, but he chose a question. God said, "Eat from every tree except one." Satan says, did God really say you can't eat any tree or any fruit? Well, it wasn't that much of a lie. It was a distortion. That distortion is more dangerous than a lie because it's harder to catch. It goes past your defense. 6,000 years later, that same question, that same strategy, different target. So my goal this morning is very, very simple. I want to expose the lie that is living in your mind right now. It is affecting your preaching. It's affecting your confidence. You feel like an imposter. You have an imposter syndrome. And if you were like me, it goes beyond that. You become to have anxiety. You get depression. You get frustrated at the call. You're physically absorbing this in your own heart, and you're physically feeling it. Some of you are being tormented by this question, and you don't even recognize it as an attack. You're taught, suck it up and push on. At least, I'm not a Marine. That's what you guys do, but suck it up, push it on. Civilians don't think like that. What do you mean, why? What's the point? That's why this weapon works so well on me. It's like, why am I pushing on? It makes no sense. Suck it up, push it on. But that's exactly how the weapon wins. It wins in silence. Suck it up, dude. That's what you're supposed to do. This is part of ministry. My goal is just to strictly name it before it costs you everything God is building in your life. You can't fight this morning what you don't understand. And I'm going to bring a heavy rev. You ready? The devil is not God. Okay. He has been studying you. The devil is not equal to God. God has no equal, not even close. The devil is not all-knowing. He does not know everything. He cannot be everywhere at once. And only God can do that. So here's what he is. And this is what most people need to miss and understand. The devil is a watcher. He observes your behavior. He listens to your conversations. He studies your desires. He has been taking notes on your life longer than you realize. And what he learns from watching you, he uses it against you. James 1:14, temptation comes from our own desires. He grabs your desires and he uses them against you, which entices us and drags us away. Temptation comes from your desires. It is not random attacks. I want to go on a cruise so bad. I live in the South Florida, in the capital of cruising. And I get mad when people say, "Hey, Pastor, I'm going on a cruise." Why? That's not fair. I'm fighting this war in my mind. You want to go on a cruise? Go for it, brother. He watches what you love. He listens to what you talk about. He studies what you fear. He identifies your desires and then builds the temptation around them. He is not a mind reader, just playing surveillance. He cannot see inside your head, but he doesn't have to. He just watches long enough, and your behavior will eventually tell him everything he needs to know. He watched me love my family. He listened to my wife and I's conversation about the cost of ministry. My wife is a daughter of a pastor, an evangelist, a missionary. She's pioneered before. She understands the cost. She said the words, I don't want to lose my family for ministry. Maybe it's just us, but he's heard my wife's fears. He watched what broke us. He studied what we would do to protect our family. And so what he does, he's built a sentence using all of it. The ministry is killing your family, Jerry. That sentence was not a random attack. It was assembled from years of watching and listening. He is not a psychic. He is a student. He has been studying your life, your marriage, for your fears, your desires longer than you know. The reason the question felt so personal is because it was. It was custom built for me. It was built from what he heard and what he watched. Another thing you need to understand is he uses questions because questions are easier to slip past your defense. Most people expect a spiritual attack to feel like an attack. Like, all right, we're ready to fight. If I could slap anxiety in the face, I would, right? Like, pow! But you can't. So what does he do? He uses the words, did God really say? Did God really say? Are you sure you're supposed to be there? The moment it lands, your mind starts working on it. And the moment you start answering it alone, he's already winning. Genesis 3:1, did God really say you must not eat the fruit from any of the trees in the garden? He didn't say God is wrong. He asked a question that requires a response. Eve engaged in it, responded through it, and the weapon was working before she even touched the fruit. A question is more effective than an accusation because you have to answer it. And the longer you answer it alone, the more convincing it becomes. Matthew 4:3, if you're the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Here's the devil using the exact same weapon again. If I was trying to take Jesus down, I'm using the most powerful attack I have. Doubt. The devil had an opportunity to turn Jesus. Same strategy on Jesus. If you are you sure you're Jesus? 6,000 years, same opening move because it keeps working. Jesus never answered it on enemy's terms. He answered it with the word and moved on. He didn't attack me. He just asked me a question, and I spent 1 year answering it alone. And the longer I answered it alone, the more convincing it became. You can defend yourself against an accusation, but a question, it gets inside your head, and it starts doing damage before you even realize the weapon is working against you. The other thing the devil loves to do is that he loves to target calling. Because the calling is his biggest threat. So I want to speak to every person in this room right now, not just pastors. Some of you, you're disciples, you're serving in your local church, you sense something is stirring in you. You're not sure if it's God or if you just want to be like me. It's legit. It's I want to be like my pastor. That's what I would want to do. Because here's the truth. A called person is a single biggest threat to the enemy's agenda. He's not attacking your calling because you're weak. He's attacking your calling because a preacher who knows that they are sent by God will not be moved. It's the most dangerous thing on earth to the devil's plans. Every soul you will ever reach, every family restored, every disciple made, every church planted begins with one person saying yes to the call. If he can get you to doubt the call, he doesn't have to fight. You'll do the work for him. Some of you are theologians. You talk yourself out of anything. Every year. Yeah, that wasn't the right one. That wasn't the right year. Genesis 1:28, then God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and govern it. The assignment existed before the attack, which was the lie. Before the serpent ever opened his mouth, God had already given Adam and Eve a calling. The serpent didn't wander in the garden randomly. He went straight to the people with the assignment. He didn't target the fish and the animals and the beavers. He targeted the one God had authorized. The enemy is not attacking you because he is winning. He's attacking you because he is afraid of what happens if you go. Every time a called person answers yes, he is losing ground. Every time a called person answers the lie alone, did God really call me to this? The devil's plan begins to work. Jeremiah 20:19. Then I said, I will not make mention of him, nor speak anymore in his name. But his word was in my heart like a burning fire shut up in my bones. I was weary of holding it back, and I could not. Jeremiah didn't just hear the question. He decided to quit. He stopped preaching, and then the fire was louder than the doubt because he knew he was called. He couldn't stop. Not because circumstances changed, but because the call was real, and a real calling doesn't get canceled by a question. So whether you're behind a pulpit or sitting in your chair, wondering if God really spoke to you, the enemy is not attacking your calling because you're insignificant. He is attacking you because you are a threat to his plan. Every soul that will come to Christ through your obedience, he can see them. He is trying to stop them before you can reach them. It is the clearest evidence that God put inside you is more dangerous to everything the devil is trying to do. I know this weapon because I lived inside of it. I was doing exactly what Eve did, having a conversation alone with the devil. Let me show you where the conversation is happening in your life right now. Okay. The questions are going to come custom built for you. And the truth is, the questions will always target what you love the most. The lie didn't come to me as a theological challenge. It came through what I love the most, which was my family. God would not ask me to do something that cost my family this much. So maybe this isn't God at all. It sounds like love. It sounds like wisdom. It sounds like a man with the right priorities. This is exactly what makes the most effective version of the weapon. He took what I love most and used that love as the argument against my obedience. I wasn't rebelling. I was protecting my family. And the enemy was using the love for my family to dismantle my calling. Genesis 3:6, the woman was convinced. She saw that the tree was beautiful and its fruits looked delicious, and she wanted the wisdom it would give her. The truth is, the tree was always there. It didn't just magically appear. The tree was always there. The fruit didn't change. Her perception changed. The weapon turned her own desires against her. He did the same thing to me. He found what I loved and dressed it a lie around it. James 1:14, temptation comes from our own desires which entice us and drag us away. What do you love the most? This is what he built the question from. He found what Eve desired. She wanted wisdom. She wanted beauty, understanding, and used it. He found out what I desired. I've had this conversation with my wife out loud. Next time I'll just not say it and just... Maybe you should pray before you talk to your wife, like... like the most dangerous lie doesn't look like a lie. They just look like love. They look like wisdom. They look like you're finally thinking clearly. When a lie sounds like you're protecting the people you love, that is when it's most effective, because you will defend your family against anything and anyone. including God's call on your life. Second thing the questions do that are custom built for you is the questions sound like wisdom. That's what makes it so dangerous. I read a book. It's a decent book or whatever, but it was what I was using to establish my resignation letter. It's a book's called Leading on Empty. And I had a theological framework why I needed to go on a sabbatical. I was going to make leaving sound responsible and spiritually mature. My resignation letter I was forming in my head didn't feel like rebellion. It was like, yeah, I'm good. I felt like the right decision, right? The mature decision, the God-honoring decision. And the whole time I thought I was being wise. No, I was just Eve, reasoning through the questions alone. Genesis 3:4-6, you won't die. The serpent replied, God knows that your eyes will be open as soon as you eat it. The woman was convinced. The woman was convinced. The serpent didn't just ask a question. He offered an explanation that sounded like insight. It didn't sound like a lie. It sounded like someone finally telling her the truth. Yeah, this is what I've been thinking my whole life. Thank you for letting me know. Now I believe it. She was convinced, not because she was foolish, but because it was wrapped in the language of wisdom. Proverbs 14:12, there's a path before each person that seems right, but ends in death. The exit always seems right. That's by design. If leaving looked obviously wrong, nobody would do it. Like if leaving the call felt like sin, like, I'm just going to continue to do it. No, it doesn't feel wrong. Like, I'm doing it honorably. I've done my part. If staying sounds reckless and leaving sounds mature right now, that is not wisdom. That is the weapon against you. The third thing, the weapon gets a voice through the person closest to you. And I don't want to leave this part out because it was extremely important. There's one more way the weapon always lands, and it lands its most powerful punch on you. The most dangerous form is in this room. It doesn't come from inside your head. It comes from the most trusted voice in your life, your wife. My wife was carrying something I didn't know about. A statement had been made to her casually by another hurting pastor's wife. The statement was this: pastors go back for redirection because the pastor's wife most of the time. Say that again. Most pastors go back because of their wives. She heard that and slowly began to believe it. She didn't cast it away. She said, it's not true. She's like, okay, whatever. She heard that slowly and began to believe it. She felt like a bad mother after that. Felt like a bad wife. She was exhausted. She was guilty. My wife had been pregnant for 4 years. You can feel it. It's real. Exhaustion is real. She was answering that question alone. Well, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I don't have enough. I don't have the tools. And maybe if we do go back, it's going to be my fault. Two people, same weapon, same target, the calling. Neither one knowing that the other one was drowning. My wife never shared it with me because she thought she was protecting me. I never shared my doubt with my wife because I thought I was protecting her. Did God really say attacks doesn't just isolate you? It uses wounded people to wound other people. And it always aims at the same thing, which is the call. Job 2:9. His wife said to him, are you still trying to maintain your integrity? Curse God and die. Okay, Job's wife isn't the villain here. I really don't. She lost the same 10 children Job lost. She ran out of the fight before he did. And because she's the most trusted voice in his life, her words land with weight no stranger's words could ever. Genesis 3:6. Then she gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Evil's already under the lie, and she handed it to Adam, what she had taken. The doubt weapon spreads through the closest relationships first. Sometimes it even spread here at conference. You go out to eat at a Mexican restaurant. You're eating chips and salsa, and then you're just spreading doubt like it's wisdom. Yeah, you're right, brothers. I mean, I go out to eat sometimes, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Really? I'm going to doubt God the whole time? Whatever. I love my wife, and she knows that. I hope. And I'm not here to put her in a bad light, okay? I'm here to tell you that she's under the same lie at the same time, and neither of us knew it. We were both answering the question alone in the same house. The silence that felt like protection was feeding the weapon. She's not your enemy. She's just a fellow casualty of the exact same lie. And she needs wisdom. But here's what the enemy didn't know. Right? God had already been building the answer. A lot of times you read the Bible, there's a weapon being used by the devil, and God always provides an answer for it and how to attack it. Okay, so the weapon truly is defeated this morning. It's not as powerful as I make it sound. You can defeat it very, very quickly. Okay, the first thing you need to do is don't do what Adam and Eve did. Right? Stop hiding. Talk to your pastor. What Adam and Eve did, they after they ate, they heard God coming and they hid. All right, Genesis 3:8 it said they hid from the Lord God among the trees. Genesis 3:6, and Adam was with her the whole time, watched everything, and said nothing. All right, two different forms of the same failure. One went passive, and one went into hiding. And that's exactly what the doubt weapon produces: silence and hiding. You stop being honest with your pastor. Hey, how you doing, brother? I'm good. Too blessed to be stressed, like. What a waste of a phone call. Why else do you think your pastor's calling to see how you're doing? Like, oh yeah, he loves you and whatever, but he's checking in. Be honest. If he stops calling, you're being too honest. This brother's always hurting. Truth is, you stop being honest with your pastor, and you stop being in a real marriage, and you cover yourself on Sunday, right? Like, you answer the question alone and in the dark, and the longer you answer it alone, the more convincing it becomes. So this is what I did instead. My pastor invited me to a sermon writing workshop in Raleigh, and it's a good time. Just the two of us. We're on a plane, and I said, okay, this is it. This is when I'm going to hand him my resignation letter. I'm forming it in my head. And instead of delivering it, I stopped hiding it, right? And I told him everything. I said, this is the doubt that I have. This is what I've been struggling with for the year. This is the question, all of it. I let it all go. And so what he does is we both pull out an iPad and we create a mind map. A mind map with two sections, one for me and one for my family. And we just tackled three things. For me, mind, body, and soul. What are you doing to help your mind? What are you doing to help your body? And what are you doing to help your soul? And we just began to break down my life and every decision I've made. And we put it down on paper or iPad. Then he created another one for my family. Put down my wife, my kids, their salvation, the plan, the strategy. I removed it from being in here and I put it in a place where we can both visually see it. And now my pastor has something to pray for. He understands what's going on in my life. And he can attack the devil with me. Every lie, we wrote them down and dismantled them one by one with truth. What a year of silence had built, one honest conversation began to take it apart. That's it. Practical step for you. Talk to your pastor. Even before leaving the building, just talk to him. Don't don't say, Pastor, I just need you to pray for me. I'm going through it. Yeah, brother, we're all going through it. What's going on? Just pray for me. Pray for me as I pray for you. Cool. Man, I've been hearing that for like 30 years. Okay. Don't ask for a vague prayer. The actual question the enemy has been using against you. Pastor, this is what I've been thinking. Stop hiding behind the resignation letter that sounds so responsible. Say it out loud before you leave the building. And go home and ask your wife what questions she's been answering alone. Because she is a fellow casualty of the same weapon, the lie. And she needs to stop hiding too. Genesis 3:9, the Lord God called to the man, "Where are you?" God is not asking because he doesn't know. He's asking because he wants them to answer honestly. Where are you? It's an invitation. Come out. Stop hiding. I'm still here, Adam. I'm still here, Eve. I haven't forgotten about you. The question, did God really say, pulls you into hiding. The question, where are you, calls you out of it. God was the first one to call a hiding person back into honesty. He's still doing that today. James 5:16, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The word healed is to cure, to make whole, to restore. The doubt weapon doesn't need to be true. It just needs to go unchallenged. And the moment you say it out loud to someone who won't let you quit, the weapon loses its power. Adam was in the room and said nothing. They both hid in the trees, and it cost them everything. Don't be Adam. Don't hide in the tree. Find your pastor. Find the person who was there when God first moved in your life, and stop answering the question alone. The silence that feels like protection is feeding the weapon. The conversation that feels risky is what defeats it. You gotta be okay with possibly sounding weak. Second step, write down the day God called you. I wish I had it ready. I didn't. I wrote down the day that God called me on a paper. My story, I'm going to frame it in my home. Every time the doubt comes, I will look at that frame and say, no, God, you called me. Why this is the most important thing I will say today. When I was on the plane, my pastor didn't just listen to my doubt. He took me back to the day. He asked me, when were you called? And I had to go back in my mind and remember, I was like, was I ever called? Right? The doubt weapon was still there. And I remember coming out, my wife and I left, first season, came back, whatever. And then sitting there in service, I didn't have a tie on, and that's how it starts. And you're coming in, just excited to be back, but whatever. You're just going through the motions. And pastor was preaching, and I don't know what he said. I was numb. I was just numb, and I'm sitting there, and I'm looking up, and I hear God's voice, and it was as clear as day because it wasn't me. It wasn't the devil. It wasn't anything I was thinking. It was God. He said, that could be you one day. And I remember those words. And when I was brought back to that memory, and I was brought back to that decision, I said, well, God, this is you. That memory, that specific moment, that specific word became my anchor to fight against the doubt. Now, when the attack comes, I don't fight it with willpower. I go back to the moment and I remember that God called me before the enemy even questioned it. That is what sustains you. Not your circumstances, Not how big your church is and how much fruit you have. Not how things are doing right now. It's the memory of the original call. Before I send anyone out, we're gonna send churches in Coconut Creek. I will require them to write this down. Write it down. I want to see the day God called you. Why? Not because I'm controlling or whatever. I will use that every time they call me. They go, Pastor, I don't know. I didn't send you out. You told me you were called by God. The church invested in you, now go. We haven't seen fruit in 17 years. Just kidding. That's not right. It's what sustains you. First, I want them to write down the day they believe God called them, that specific moment, the specific words, what they felt, and what he said. Second, I want to know why they believe it was God and not just their own ambition. Because I know what is coming for them. The doubt weapon will arrive as soon as they get there. It always does. And when it does, they will need something more stable than their circumstances to stand on. The written record of the calling is their foundation. Proverbs 16:1, the preparation of the heart belongs to man, but the answer of the tongue is from the Lord. Maybe you're preparing. I'll leave you with that. This week, that's how I want to go. Write it down. Why? And that will sustain you. That's all I have.